Anyone else? Okay, last speaker then, thank you. Name and address for the record, please.
Jerry Bass, 66 Keenan Lane, Holland. I'm going to read a statement. We can, I believe, all agree that Northampton is a great place in which to raise a family. Over the years, we've been recognized by various publications as one of the best in the country. Our taxes, while higher than we'd like, pale in comparison to similar communities in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. We have excellent schools, library, parks, rec, senior facilities, fire, and related township services. All this has been built and overseen by 3 of our present and several past supervisors during the past 40 years. They have appointed qualified people to the Municipal Authority, Zoning Board, Planning Commission, Library, Parks, and Rec. These are the people who built this township. We may not always have agreed on various issues, but the high-quality end result is exemplary. I congratulate them on a job well done. Virtually all of these people are well-educated and come from successful business and professional and other backgrounds. Most have served tirelessly on various boards, authorities, commissions, and numerous 501c3s. They may not now serve in uniform, but they are the troops who make our system thrive. Most have been serving for decades. I first met John when he was a 13-year-old volunteer election worker, and I've known Vince since he was 18 or 19, working as a volunteer in Bristol and Middletown. How dare you, Frank Rothermel, and Jim Cunningham. Hey, I kept quiet for you, now you keep quiet for me. How dare you, Frank Rothermel, and Jim Cunningham, who no one ever heard of until 3 years ago, come in here and start throwing bombs at the people who did all the heavy lifting to build this community that we love and call home. Where have you two been while all this time-consuming volunteerism has been building our community? You come here virtual strangers, screaming corruption and mismanagement, wanting to sell off the town's asset, reduce our fine police force, and install cameras a la 1984. The big issue that you are pursuing is your vehicle is the MUA and the West End Sewer Project. You have done this with gross misrepresentations, half-truths, distortions, and worst of all, flat-out lies. You have used your skills as a trial lawyer who is trained to argue either side of any issue without regard to your own personal beliefs, to lather up the residents with your disingenuous babble. It is bad enough that these residents will have to shoulder an enormous economic burden. Do you need to add to the cost of your nonsensical delaying tactics? Your constant haranguing and bad-mouthing of the supervisors and MUA has caused a delay of more than a year on a project that you knew from the beginning was going to be done, thereby further escalating the cost to the very people you purport to champion. Frank, let me be the first to tell you the sad news. Virtually every major political development project since people have been free has been fought by opportunists like you. Fortunately, most of the time, the real representatives of people at some point say enough is enough and the work gets done. About 2.5 years ago, during a public comments segment, a resident, to emphasize his point, told George that he was a Republican committeeman. George responded by saying that he was elected as a Republican, but as a supervisor is sworn to represent all of the people. Several months ago, after your second public meeting as a supervisor, I congratulated you on your win and suggested that you stop campaigning and start doing the people's business. To date, you have not. It is impossible to tell with you where the supervisor ends and the chairman of the Democratic Party begins. And you are doing this on the public till. Frank, you have 3 choices. Do your job as a supervisor for all the residents, quit and go back to the political swamp that spawned you, or continue running the Democratic Party from public meetings.
Who wrote that?
I
Who's
did.
the author?
I am. If you choose the first, great. If you choose the second, better. If you choose the third, watch out. We already have a town jester and town dunce. I do not believe it is our best interest to have a town hatchet man. Frank, if you persist in your present course, I will be here challenging you and correcting your lies and misrepresentation at every meeting, live and in color. To the board, thanks for your kind attention.
Who wrote that?
I did.
Okay,
I learned how to write in the 8th grade.
Nice job.
sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baz. Let me just address a couple things. I can understand where you're coming from. I'm sure there's a lot of hurt feelings because a lot of the criticisms that I've raised about the municipal board are directed at the board members, which your wife is one of them. In fact, I know that you're upset that that Jim Cunningham and myself did not vote to reappoint her at the board. And, well, you say that
Well,
you
it's very
couldn't care
clearly a
less.
personal issue with
Please,
you.
please.
You seem to have taken it very personally. As for the trial lawyer and all that, let me just say a few things about that. I was first a United States Department of Justice fraud prosecutor, and we had a great oath when we went into our office, which is this: the innocent shall not suffer, nor the guilty go free. And that's how I've tried to run my life and to run my law practice. And I'm not the kind of guy that argues one side or the other. What I do is try to figure out which is the right side, and then that's the only side that I take. And that has been my guiding force since I learned that from my mother when I was a kid, from the nuns when I went to Catholic school, and that's the same thing and that I use as my moral compass today. Now, you might not like it, and I know that it was a tough election that was very divisive for this board and for this community. But look at the issues that we raised. We were $4 million in debt in 1998. We're $35 million in debt now. You don't think that's a big deal? $3 million, almost 14 or 15% of our budget just goes to pay the interest on that debt. And then I went and looked at the source of the debt. Look at the money that was mismanaged. We had a community center that wasn't built. They spent $3.5 million to build a building that never got built. And that was with borrowed funds that had to be paid back over 20 years. Okay, so that $3.5 million mistake becomes an $8 million mistake that this community and us and myself and my kids and Jim Cunningham and his kids have to pay. Now, you might not think that's a big deal, but that's a big deal. The municipal part, that was another big issue that we had. We spent close to $7 million on the municipal park at the corner of Hatboro Road. Now, yes, I'm a Democrat, we're all for parks, but we got the land for free. I mean, when you go out there, it's basically a landscape park. Major parts of it were no bid contracts either. And I've had a big problem with that. When I actually went and looked at the financing of how this board and the prior board members financed those bonds, that was extremely troubling too. It was all on no bid contracts. I mean, it's not illegal, so I'll just say that right up front. Under the Municipalities Act, it's not illegal to do a no-bid contract for professional services. So when they hire their engineers, when they hire their brokers, their lawyers, their architects, they don't have to bid it out. It can be no bid. But just because it's not illegal doesn't make it right, Mr. Bass, okay? And so what happened? All $35 million of those bond issues, from $4 million to $35 million, were run on 4 municipal bond issues through a company called First American Municipals. So being the good lawyer that we were always trained, follow the money, follow the money, follow the money. And you know who owns First American Municipals? Actually, she's a personal friend of yours. Her name is Pat Poprik. She happens to be the treasurer of the Pennsylvania Republican Party. She actually, if you read the Courier the other day, she turns out that she's going to be the #2 person behind Harry Fox running the Bucks County Republican Party. Okay? Now, you might be happy with that, but you know what? I think it's wrong. It's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong as rain. $35 million in bond issues, we could have bid them out, we could have got lower interest payments.
Could we?
I suggested,
That's-
yes, we could.